Morning, everyone. So, multiple topics for today's video. We're going to talk about my lunch meat 14 list. Not that we're going to talk about it that much. We're going to talk about the new season of the TTS League, my trios event that I'm hosting, and then I played in my first live event for MCP. I've been playing other games for a long time. Yesterday, and I'll just talk about not too much into detail of the games, but just how I feel playing live MCP and my thoughts going forward there. So let's start with that because the other ones are all like online event type stuff. So I played my first event. It was a team tournament. Went with two good friends. We came like middle of the pack. I went 2-1, lost to Kingpin, beat CGR Guardians, and then beat some unique Hellfire list. Nothing too crazy from the games. The KP one, steel and potatoes is what I'm going to start calling the list, where it's just like take some steels, take some potatoes, sit on points, and win. I had some decent plays that didn't end up working out. I had some things I would have done better. Probably wouldn't have gone 20 points, would have gone 17, because I feel like 20 ended up helping him more than it helped me. Very nice guy and good player. He took some risky stuff, but it paid off. I couldn't capitalize on that part of it. But as for playing in-person MCP, I really do like playing online. I've talked about it before, where the mod does everything, whether it's power phase, cleanup, the measuring is easy and clean, all this good stuff. I did not have that much trouble with the measuring in person. I felt like, there is some very nuance of it not being as perfect, but I also, MCP, the ranges are pretty far. Like, range 4 is 8 inches, especially on given the size of the board. And, there's no like control zones. It's not like you can be trapped in, like in combat with somebody, or, I don't know what I forgot what Malifaux called it to be fair. But there's a little more freedom. You can go through people, so some of the measurements aren't as big as maybe are made out to be in other games. So I felt pretty good there. I think not having Mark Mats was annoying. And as long as both opponents understand like what is feasible turn one, like you can eyes on the prize with the medium mover and pick up the middle extract. And if for whatever reason the size of the mat or just where the token was placed wasn't perfect, like because there's a little bit of variance but not a ton. Like understanding that. Now obviously if you misplay and you like put yourself at an angle and you're not even close, then there's nothing you can do. But I would have preferred Mark Mats, generally speaking, because I just find it like it took 5 to 10 minutes of deployment. It took 5 minutes to like get out the maps and like what letter they are, and then some of them you need a 5, and a 4, and just doing it over top of terrain. It's just a pain in the ass, in my opinion. So I would 100% Mark Mats all day. I think people have very different ways of doing power and health, and obviously, the tokens are the most common one, and that's what I did because that's all I had. It is a little bit annoying to like ask back and forth, like how much power do you have, blah blah blah. And then for one opponent used like little dials, which were horrendous because I couldn't see them, and so it's somewhat. It's not like I don't have this blatant distrust for people, but like it's annoying to like not have that. I have to be like, how much life does Angela has? How much life does Emma have? Or whoever. It just happened to be who he had. And it's just annoying for me because either you can't make plays in your head because you have to like ask them and it kind of directs their attention to what you're thinking of, or it's harder to call them on things like if you think they did power wrong or health wrong, like you don't see it in real, like you don't see them do the tokens or anything, and it's just a little like it's very easy to mess up health or energy or power or anything, and not being able to easily see it. I didn't like. Also, funnily enough, like TTS being able to like look at their cards during their turn just so you can see what stuff does. It's a little more annoying, like in person, like really knowing what people's cards do and how much they cost and the ranges is pretty important. Now I knew a lot of it, so it helped, but that obviously would have been very helpful to play in person. I think I just need like a set that is more. I just need to be more organized in my own set and my own tokens and stuff. Like a lot of people have like nice token organizers and places for the rulers. And I think if you have like very clean ways, like moving from game to game, setting up, it would be much easier. But otherwise, I had fun in person. I mean, I still honestly like playing online is just so much easier. It doesn't translate that badly in person. I felt like it was fine. I mean, you just gotta understand it's a little more clunky, but it didn't feel like a huge detriment to the game. Um, so yeah, I had fun. I want to do another in person event. I got half my squad painted by a friend who I paid for, so I'm waiting for the rest of it. So yeah, anyway, had fun. Lunch Meat 14, I made a video on Squirrel Girl and Loki. I'm going to Squirrel Girl this route. I was pretty hyped about Loki, but I think I love playing Logan, and I played him all 3 games yesterday, and I just love everything. I've loved him since every time I play him. I'm like, this guy is awesome. Um, and so I'm adding him in. I'm going with that Squirrel Girl idea of maybe I can play Logan X23 Squirrel Girl, Cap and Luke in at 17, and just see what it does, right? As opposed to playing like Voodoo and Iron Man and crap like that. Did it change much of my list? I have no amount of the cost in there. I don't have Pyro, but we're gonna see how it works without Pyro. And I took a pay to flip because for some reason, I feel like I'm really good on this pay to flip. I feel like Logan's really good on it. I feel like anyone with like a move off their attacks, like X23, are good on it. To where I'm like, fuck it, I'm gonna play it. I think I'm good. I think I'm personally good at it. I think pay to flips are slightly harder to play, generally speaking. And so I don't know. I just think if you're better at them, it can make a headache for your opponent. And it's nice to have if you're playing against like Crims or something to have like a pay to flip in your secure so that you might get it versus them. Anyway, so that's easy peasy talking about it there. We have the TTS League season 12. I'm playing in the Midwest. Yes. Playing in Central. That's right. It's the Midwest. Just because of the time. I'm already qualified for the finals because of the last chance. So I still want to try like my good stuff. It's not like I'm going to play some weird faction or affiliation that I don't play now. So I'm still going to run Avengers. I'll probably run something like with my lunch meat list in the beginning just to keep it consistent and test it out. And then depending if I win or lose from there, we'll see if I change anything. Obviously, if I keep winning, I'm going for a better placing in the final so that, a better seeding. And maybe I knock somebody out that would otherwise be strong. So I have all the motivation to do well and knock some people out of the finals. So yeah, that'll be coming up too, along with lunch meat, which will be exciting. And then lastly, I want to talk a little bit about a trios event that I'm running. So you can find it here on Longshanks. You can see the name above. It starts in 4 weeks, but I'm just trying to give people time to assemble teams. Now, there's already 5 teams here. There's only 8 total. This is the inaugural. I don't know what the plan is afterwards, but because WTC is coming up, the TTS League is always ongoing. Depending on the feedback here, I mean, so far, honestly, I have 1 USA team, which is myself and 2 friends, which we're probably a little bit of a bunch of sharks around here, but there's 2 good Canadian teams, a good French team, and a good English team, and so anyone can join this if you have a team. It's going to be it's 3 people. You can't cross over. There is a link to the Google Doc if you want to look at it. You can't cross over models, but everything else can be duplicated. There's a pairing system that's very easy. And yeah, it's just who wins 2 of 3. That being said, the hardest thing is probably going to be timing because, the one thing the TTS League does well is everyone's in like the same time zone. Here, you're going to have to be a little more flexible. So like if you're coming in and you're like, I can only play at 9 o'clock at night, Monday through Friday, you're probably not going to want to be in this event because there are teams that are European and you're going to have to work on either a morning, a night, a weekend, or something like that. I've run events for Ninth Age for years. I think 2 or 3 years I ran events. Since COVID, I was running big events online with teams of 5 to 8, 200 plus people. And so I'm used to the time zone thing. It's a big deal. It's a little easier for TTS because the games take 2 hours instead of 4 to 5 hours. So that block is much easier. But just letting you know, like, if we have to forfeit or, I'm going to have to deal with that shit. But I'm hopefully, if you got to come in here knowing you're going to have some weird times to play. Again, it's only 8 teams, so there's only 3 spots left. It won't be the last one. What I'd love to try to do is run like a bigger one. I'd love to do a 5-man team because I think so. Here's one thing that I kind of learned from Nova, because it was the same concept of 3-man teams where you can't cross over models. Is it does create an interesting dynamic, and I think 3 is enough to kind of be like slightly annoying. Like, I didn't have Pyro, which was fine. I had like Malekith, but we didn't even have the model, so he was on my list, but I could never play him. I think 5-man teams is a sweet spot of there's enough models and there's enough solid models to where, those 8, 9, 10 splashes that some affiliations you got to think a little bit harder. And also, I think the pairings, again, I've talked about this maybe where pairings and Malifaux didn't matter much because you had so much variety, and pairings in Warhammer 9th Age mattered a lot because your lists were locked and like they had more counters. I think there's a middle ground to MCP where it's not as bad, but also I think when you get to 5-man teams, things start to open up, right? Because there's only one Malekith, right? That can be possible. There's only one Thanos, but at the same time, for those lists, there's less counters because, not everybody has a Thanos counter. And counter is the wrong word, but maybe like a Thanos plan or a Malekith plan. So not only can you make lists that if they have a bad matchup, if their only bad matchup is X-Men, you can tilt, say, fuck it, I'm never going to have to play X-Men. I don't have to put any models in to have to play X-Men. Or vice versa, or or you can say, all right, I'm Thanos. I'm going to, there's so many people. Pyro's only on one person. Maybe X or Y is good versus me. Maybe they don't have all of them, and then maybe I can kind of slide in and get a good match. Again, I don't know. I wonder with the way the splashing works and how people tend to take a splash or two that kind of fills voids in their list. I'm wondering when not only those splashes aren't as everybody can't take them, if it kind of changes the meta in some way, whether things become better or worse because the pairing system on top of it also gives you some nuance where if you're only good bad versus X-Men and you're pretty positive to some extent versus a lot of things, you can put them up first. And because they can only give you 2 things, they can give you X-Men and the thing that they, I guess the second best option. Or you can hold them for later, or you can play 2 lists that maybe can handle a lot of things where you say, all right, these 2 lists are going to handle, I don't know, Malekith and Thanos, and so you can kind of work in the pairing method to say, all right, I'm going to put down, I don't know, I make up a situation. I'm going to put down my convocation first. It's only bad versus X. Okay, they give me X and Y, I'm going to take Y. And for somehow your 2 generalists are good against X, you can almost, not trap them in a way, but you can eventually trap them in some little way. So there's definitely some options there to think about. In fact, if you do it right, I think you can always force one match onto any 2 of yours. That makes sense. So let's just say they had Thanos, and you had 2 lists who were very good against Thanos. There is no way for that Thanos person to not get one of those 2 if you do it correctly. If you pair correctly and pair for it. And done correctly is not even the wrong word, just if you do it right. Because all you have to do is, you hold your 2 Thanos counters in hand, right? So they put down some other army, you give them your other 2. If you manipulate it a certain way, Thanos will always get those. Anyway, the point being I'm trying to make is there is a 3-man team event out there that's 3 rounds. If it goes well and there's not a ton of griping and scheduling conflicts and people saying whatever, I would love to do, after maybe the new core set is out, which will happen, I think, soon and during this event, maybe even before this event or during this event. I'd love, and maybe after WTC when people are like hyped about team events, a open to everybody on TTS 5-man teams, not region locked, so you don't have to be a USA team, just 5-man teams and X number of rounds. There you go. If people are interested in that, let me know. But yeah, that'd be pretty cool, wouldn't it? Anyway, that's kind of like the random spattering of topics for today. Thanks for listening.